Hey guys, this is Gossip Girl from Take My Money Now, and this is a review, swatches, and demo of the Natasha Denona eyeshadows. Alright, so today I'm going to be sharing some unfiltered, unsponsored thoughts on the Natasha Denona eyeshadow palette that I got my hands on a few weeks ago. You guys can probably see I'm an extremely small channel, so everything that I own I pay for with my own money, with my own hard-earned money, and I love spending on makeup. And every once in a while I do like to spend on luxury items or more high-end items, but when I spend that kind of money on a product, I expect a lot from it. I want it to outperform everything else that's cheaper than that. Here's what we're going to talk about today. First of all, I'm just going to give you an intro of this palette. Then I'm going to talk to you guys about my first impressions on this palette. Then later I want to talk about some pros. I'm also going to touch on some cons. And then we're going to conclude as to whether or not this palette was worth its money. Lastly, I'm going to swatch this palette for you guys, and then I'm going to insert a demo of me applying some of these eyeshadows on my eyes. Alright, so Natasha Denona makes several different kind of eyeshadow palettes, and you can buy any shade from any of their palettes individually. They sell all of these shades individually, and they are the exact same pan size as the ones that are in their palettes. The single eyeshadows are like extremely expensive. I'm thinking $27, $29 a piece. And then they have their two giant palettes that have 28 shades each, and that is like $240 or something. So basically these eyeshadows are notoriously expensive and extremely hyped up here on YouTube. I've been wanting to have a taste of these eyeshadows for quite a while now. So I picked up palette number 5, and you get 3 of the more satin finishes in this palette, 1 of the more metallic finishes, and then 1 of the more glittery finishes here. These are the 2 colors that I was most excited about because I don't have anything like that in my collection. Then you are also getting a really pretty neutral color in here, which is kind of a bonus that you get a neutral shade right here. And then I was also really intrigued by this super metallic glittery shade right here. It is a duochrome. It has kind of a green, blue, brown kind of a shift to it. The only color that I was not too excited about in this palette was this green one right here. It doesn't look like a me color to me. I bought this palette from Beautylish, and when I first got it, I was really excited to see how it was packaged. It was packaged in a beautiful wrapping sheet that looks just like the blue-brown eyeshadow palette by Natasha Denona. As for the packaging on the product itself, I wasn't shocked because I had heard Kathleen Lights talk about the cheap packaging. I mean, the plastic on this is really nice, but it's just plastic. For something that is as expensive as the Natasha Denona brand, you actually expect nicer packaging. So that is not where my disappointment lies. I was actually disappointed by the product itself. When I first swatched this, I was so underwhelmed. I had heard so many people say that these eyeshadows were almost wet to the touch and so soft, and that's something I did not experience at all. Now, I do understand that the softness of the eyeshadow has to do with its color. The Dark Mattes palette by Viseart has very smooth eyeshadows, but the 2 blues that are in that eyeshadow palette are chalkier and chunkier than the rest of the eyeshadows. And I'm ready to discount my opinion and my judgment based on that, but I was even underwhelmed by this gold right here. I was underwhelmed by this glittery version right here. So I don't know, I was just extremely underwhelmed. So yeah, those were my first impressions on this palette. However, now that I have had a chance to play with this palette for over 2 weeks, I would say that the eyeshadows are now really soft and wet to the touch like most people claim them to be. Maybe they just had a harder surface that you need to just work through to get to the more wetter, smoother formula. I don't know what it is, but that is how I felt about them the first time that I touched them. And I thought it was important for me to let everybody know because I had never heard anyone say that. And for that matter, I was actually really disappointed for the first couple of days that I got this palette. Alright, so now that we've got the first impressions out of the way, let's talk about a few things that are really good about these eyeshadows. Let's discuss some pros. The first thing, pigmentation. People are right, these are extremely pigmented eyeshadows, and what I really like is that These eyeshadows are a really good hybrid between pigment and binding agents, because there are some eyeshadows in the market that are extremely pigmented, but they don't have the right amount of binding agent in them, which causes them to have intense fallout. The second thing that I really like about these eyeshadows is that they do not have a crazy amount of fallout. Now, I won't say that they have zero fallout. They definitely have some fallout, but it's not anything crazy. And lastly, something that I really like and find really unique about these eyeshadows is how true the colors are represented in the pans. I mean, what you see in the pan is what you're gonna get on your eyes. Alright, so now let's talk about something that's not that great about these eyeshadows, and I majorly only have one issue with these eyeshadows, and that is that these eyeshadows have like zero tolerance or resistance to water. I have already mentioned this a couple of times on my channel, and as crazy as that sounds, I do splash my face with water a couple of times during the day after I've worn makeup. You would not believe how many makeup items that do not claim to be waterproof or water resistant are actually water resistant. Any eyeshadow that I have in my collection would actually stick and stay the same, exactly the same, even 12 hours later when I have washed my face like 4 times during the day. So what I found really irritating and something that really bothered me, and it happened to me actually twice, once when I hadn't even washed my face, was that after a while of putting these eyeshadows on, I would have bald spots all over my eyelids. And that's crazy. Why would my eyeshadow move? I was putting on MAC Painterly Paint Pot. I was putting on glitter glue because that's generally how I put my lid shades. Why the hell would I have bald spots on my eyes is something beyond my understanding. Again, I know it's not their claim, but this is something that even $2 eyeshadows are able to do. I don't understand why eyeshadows that are this expensive have such poor adherence ability. So I don't know, that was a complete bummer for me. I wouldn't put these eyeshadows on a bride, because if there's any chance she's gonna cry on her wedding, which she probably is gonna, there's no way that these eyeshadows could actually resist to that. I don't know, maybe I got a bad batch, but to me it has happened twice and I'm really not happy about that. So those are basically my 2 cents on the pros and cons of this eyeshadow palette. Alright, and now for the $1,000,000 question. Are these eyeshadows worth the hype? Are they worth the money that you pay for them? As surprising as it may come to some of you, and despite everything that I said I don't like about this palette, I think yes, for me personally, I do think it was worth it. And that's because I am a makeup junkie, I'm a makeup fanatic, I spend way too much money on makeup, and I know myself, I would have bought these eyeshadows somewhere down the lane, and it's quite possible that I would have spent more money on them. And I'm saying that because for a very long period of time I was determined I was gonna get the Star palette, which is $170 freaking dollars, in the next Sephora VIB sale. So I mean, I was prepared to spend that kind of money, and now knowing what I know about these eyeshadows, I'm like satisfied only owning these eyeshadows. Even though I love the shades in the Star palette, I don't think I'm gonna spend that kind of money on eyeshadows that I feel like rub off on me. And I mean, I want to give these eyeshadows benefit of the doubt. Maybe something went wrong on my application, because it did happen only 2 times out of the 8 times that I wore these eyeshadows. So maybe I can figure out a way that these won't rub off on me. For now, I'm quite sure I'm not gonna wear them. If I know I'll be in very hot weather, or if I know or expect to get emotional and shed a tear or two, that's not gonna happen. But I mean, I didn't have these shades. I've got some unique shades in my collection, and yeah, I don't exactly regret buying this, but I don't think it's really worth it for an average consumer. For someone who only wants to keep 1 or 2 eyeshadow palettes in their collection, I don't think it's wise to spend this kind of money on these eyeshadows, I think you would be much better off spending your money for something special. You can go ahead and buy the Jouer Skinny Dip palette. For normal occasions, for every day, you can go ahead and buy the Chocolate Bar palette, which I think is gonna stick to your eyes at least. So yeah, that is it for my review. Let's just jump right into some swatches, and then I'm gonna insert a small demo and I'm gonna come right back. Alright guys, now let's get into a brief demo of me applying these eyeshadows on my eyes. Let's get all close and personal so you can see every single bump on my eyes and forehead. But it's alright, no need to act like I'm perfect. So anyways, because there are no matte shades in the Natasha Denona palette that I own, I had to get help from other palettes. So I took out my Viseart palettes in dark mattes as well as matte neutrals, and I'm going to use that to build color in my transition and then in my outer corner. But for my lid and my inner corners, I'm going to use shades from the Natasha Denona palette. Now, since this isn't technically an in-depth tutorial and just a demo, I would just breeze through most of these steps and only concentrate on parts where I'm actually using the Natasha Denona eyeshadows. So I just picked my Neutral Mattes palette from Viseart and I mixed in the first three shades to make a shade that would be close to my skin tone, use that as my transition shade. Then I went in the same palette and took the orange shade in the palette and used that to deepen up my crease a little bit more. Now I picked up this really dark brown from the palette and I added some more depth and dimension to the outer corners of my eyes. While blending that in my crease, I just made sure that as I opened my eyes, I could still see that color in my crease. Next, I'm going to lay down some e.l.f. glitter glue because now I'm going to go into my Natasha Denona eyeshadow palette. I'm going to pick up the shade Deep Pacific on my synthetic shader brush and I'm going to put that all over my lids. This is a really deep green, almost borderline black. It's a beautiful shade and I'm going to use that all over my lids. Then I'm picking up this really bright yellow from my Dark Mattes palette because I want the transition between the green on the lids and the orange in the crease to be really soft and subtle, which is why I'm going to blend those two together with this yellow shade. Next, I picked up this beautiful shade, one of my favorite shades of all time. I'm picking this up and I'm putting this directly into my crease. I wanted the contrast between the lid shade and the crease to be really stark, but at the same time I wanted the transition to be soft, if that makes any sense. But I felt like because of all the blending and despite the fact that I had glitter glue underneath, I felt like the shade Deep Pacific by Natasha Denona had lost a lot of its vibrancy, which is why I picked up my synthetic brush one more time and I'm going to pack some more eyeshadow on my lid. After that, I just added some more smokiness and depth to the overall eye look. I just picked up this black eyeshadow and put that on the outer corners of my eyes. I also took the Kat Von D tattoo eyeliner and drew on a little wing. Then I picked up my Maybelline Master Drama Kohl eye pencil and I put that in my waterline as well as my tight line. Then I'm just smoked out my lower lash line using all the same colors that I used in my crease and in my transition and all of that. For the brow bone highlight, I picked up the white shade from the Viseart palette and I just highlighted my brow bone. But for the inner corners, I picked up the shade 56P from my Natasha Denona eyeshadow palette, which is a beautiful golden champagne kind of a shade, and I just popped that on my inner corners. And lastly, I just curled my lashes, put on 2 coats of mascara on my upper and lower lashes. And yeah guys, that was it for the demo of these eyeshadows being applied on the eyes. This is the look that I came up with using 2 of the shades in this palette. And yes, that's about it for this demo. So yeah guys, that's it for today's review. If you guys found this video entertaining or helpful, please give it a thumbs up and do not forget to hit that subscribe button before you leave. And I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.